In this video, I'm going to show you how to install the brand new EVGA CLX 360 liquid cooling unit. Then after that, I'm going to show you how to control it and all the changes you can make within Windows on this big bad boy. You can see it right in here. Now, before we do the install, we need to do an unboxing. So let's get started with that real quick. All right, so again, here is the EVGA CLX 360. Here are the RGB lit fans and that beautiful display. This is an Asetek design. Along the top here, just EVGA CLX 360 upside down. Over here, model number, serial, all that good stuff. Bottom of the box. Then along the back here, we have some of the features, specifications, and everything in English, French, and Russian. Then some marketing photos. So let's get to what's inside. All right, nice packaging here. So let's start with these. So here we're going to find a bunch of different screws and adapters and back plates and all that good stuff. Now for this little baggie, first off, there are multiple little bags in here, not just the Intel one. So putting everything aside. So we'll start off with the Intel 1700. These are the standoffs. 4 of these little guys right over here. And now this brings 4 of these standoffs, and then 4 thumb screws for the standoffs. Then over here, the AMD AM4 and AM5. All right, so it's going to bring 4 of these standoffs, a little bit longer along the top, and then shorter along the bottom with smaller threading, and 4 of these collars. And then the AMD retention bracket. Then we're going to have the Intel backplate, which is compatible with LGA 1700, 1200, and 1150. Along with a little Allen wrench to tighten everything. Then 12 of these 30mm fan screws. And then 12 of these little collars. Then it comes with 12 of these little teeny tiny screws, 12 of these washers, 12 of these 20mm UNC 6x32 fan screws, all that good stuff. Over here, 1 of the 3 120mm fans. I'll go ahead and show you one of them. Okay, and just make sure to remove this off of them. They are nice looking fans. Now, one thing I noticed as I was taking this out of the package is that they all come attached. So one fan is going to plug into another fan, going to plug into another fan, and then the RGB portion as well. And just so that you could see, this one was already still attached. And then this little package right over here is the display. A little bit different than I thought it would be. All right, so this is going to show you temperatures and all that good stuff on here. And then this will go onto the back of what I believe is the cold plate. Not 100% sure just yet, and that'll connect into it. It looks like this will snap into it. This will connect maybe into the radiator or maybe a USB connection. Then we have the EVGA installation guide here. This is not only a thick guide, but it's a very sturdy guide. So, and don't have to worry about this too much. We're going to go over everything in this video. And then this is cabling. So they have everything sheathed up into one cable, maybe one strand. This comes out into multiple. Now I think this is going to be, yeah, this is going to be for the fans. And then there's also this one as well. And then we have SATA power over here. And then the one main connection. And then we have the cold plate right over here, pre-applied with thermal paste. For these kind of videos, I'd like to use the thermal paste that comes on there. I'll keep this piece of plastic on there. And then, as I was mentioning before, we have the back of the cold plate over here, where that screen is going to attach into. Okay. The hoses are 400 millimeters long. They are also braided as well. Very nice, tight braiding. Oh, and it comes covered. Look at that. So here is the radiator. Nice and cold. Very nice and cold. EVGA right over here, upside down. And over here, right side up. And it feels very nice. This is aluminum. This also does come with a 5-year warranty. Now that we've done the unboxing, let's get started with the install. Now, since we are using an Intel Socket 1700 processor, we're going to be utilizing this backplate. Now, this backplate, you'll notice this little piece sticking out right over here. Okay. Now that's going to stick out right through these little screw holes on the motherboard. Now, because this will fit different sockets, you will need to make sure that you push these completely out. For example, if you find it like this, you're just going to push it out completely, and we'll do that on all 4 sides. Now, bringing the motherboard back, we're going to go ahead and slip this on the back over here through these screw holes, or an easier way would be just flip it over and then just drop them right into the screw holes right here. And just push all 4 through. Now we'll go ahead, just put our hand back here and flip the board over. And then lay it flat so that we can see that sticking out right on all 4 of the little holes. Like I showed you before, these little standoffs for the Intel 1700, we're going to just screw them into these holes right over here. Now, because that little piece stuck out, we're going to be screwing it down as tight as possible because it's not actually making contact with the board. So you're not going to damage the motherboard. So now for the liquid cooling unit, you're going to want to make sure that the hoses are facing either the front of the case where you want them to be or the rear of the case. I want this to be towards the front, so I'm going to leave it like this. And then I'm going to remove this piece of plastic off of the cold plate and the pump. And now it's up to you to decide if you want the hoses to be along the bottom, the side next to the RAM, towards the rear IO, or the very top. I think, let's see, I think it might be best towards the very bottom. Okay, and then that's going to go ahead right over these screw holes right over here, for those standoffs that we just installed. I'm holding it down just for the thermal paste not to get moved around much. Then we're going to go ahead and use these thumb screws over these screws right over here and just thread them. We don't want them to go all the way through, and we'll do diagonal from here to over here. And then over here. Now at this point we can screw them in 100%. And again, I'm doing it diagonal. And now with the cold plate in place, we're going to go ahead and attach the display. You'll notice there is the connector right over here, and then the locking mechanism right over here. The locking mechanism is right here. Here is the connector, and then a little bit of an anchor right over here is right over here. So we're going to go ahead and pass this cable in between the hoses. Then we'll open it up. We'll anchor it right over here and just push it down. That's going to go ahead and lock it right over here and connect the connector. Okay, and when it's in, you'll hear that little click. And now we'll connect this cable into one of the USB 2.0 headers on the motherboard. So bringing the cable down for now until we get the motherboard inside of the case. We're going to go ahead and connect it to this USB 2.0 header right over here. Just make sure this little opening right over here, you'll notice there is a missing pin. Lines up with the missing pin right over here. And that's it. Easy enough to connect. Since this will be the rear of the case, the back over here facing the rear of the case, I'm gonna go ahead and just put them right over here. Notice they're gonna go ahead and line up with the screw holes in a second at least. And so once we have them laid out, I'm going to show you with one and then I'm going to repeat it with the rest. We just line up the screw hole, drop a screw along with a washer right in here, drop it right in that screw hole, and don't screw it in 100%, just one or two little screws just to get some threading in there. And then we'll repeat the same diagonally, making sure that we get it correct before we screw it in 100%. Okay, now those two are screwed in, so these should also be tight. And then we'll repeat that process all through the three. So now with all three connected, now we just need to get this cabling looking all nice and then have everything attached to everything else. So just connect that into that. So we just connected this fan into this fan. Okay, so now that we have all three of the fans connected, we're going to go ahead and connect this to the pump. And that's something I should have done before, but thankfully we can take this off just by pushing on this and lifting up. Okay, so we're going to match up the notch up here at the very top and the two notches on the side. So there we go, right up here. And then we'll just push this right in here. Easy enough. Then we'll just put this back. Now, with this connection, we'll go ahead and join all three of the fans power connectors. So first fan into the second fan, into the third fan, and then we have one cable sticking out over here. We're going to go ahead and connect that right into this cable from this fan. So now, I'm sorry, from this adapter that connects to the pump. So now the pump is connected to these three fans. And now we'll use this cable from the pump itself. And then the CL360 also brings this. We'll connect this into this connection right over here. So now we can connect all 3 of these fans into here. Two and 3. Now this looks horrible, but again, it's going to be slid in through the back, so we will never see it. And then this cable also has a 3rd cable coming from it, and that goes into the CPU fan header right over here, and I'll bring you in a little bit closer. Now that other cable, again, right over here, the CPU fan header, and the CPU fan header is right over here. Now, since this is going to be cooling the CPU, this will go under the CPU connection. Now this one will go to power, but a little bit later on when we have more room. I'm going to go ahead and feed all of these cables right through here. And again, because the radiator is going to be right over here, we're not going to see any of it. So I'll do that off camera one quick second. So for the most part, all the cables are back here. Now we're going to go ahead and screw the radiator to the top of the case. I'll clean this up in a second. So now we'll screw in the radiator with these screws. So we're going to want to align the screw holes here. One right here and then one over here. So the way we're going to do this is like we did before with everything else. We're going to screw in one extreme, and again, maybe 50% of the way. Now we're going to screw in the other side, maybe about 50% of the way as well. And we'll move it a little tiny bit because what we want to do is screw in all of these screws, and we can see that there might be one missing over here. It's in the way, so maybe we can move it up, or maybe we just have to leave that one alone because we see right over here these 2 line up perfectly, so we may just leave that one. So let me go ahead and screw that in real quick and I'll be right back. So now we have the radiator screwed at the very top of the case. We can see the hoses coming along right over here nicely. The only part that kind of bugs me is this USB cable. So what I think I'm going to do is underneath this heatsink, route it under here, beneath the PCIe locking mechanism, through down here, underneath this heatsink, behind this locking mechanism as well. We don't have any M.2 SSDs down here, so this is not going to get hot. Even if it did, the M.2 SSD would start right over here. It would go this way. Then there would be another one going from over here to over here. So we have space in between here that it won't get hot, and then bring it behind that PCIe slot. Now, it is kind of bothering me that it's there, so I'm going to go ahead and take care of this cable real quick. So again, behind this PCIe connection, and then we'll put it back. We could have also routed it behind there, but that's okay. And then we're going to go ahead and lift this, and just be sure that anywhere you're dropping this cable, there isn't a pin sticking out, which could potentially fray the cable. Okay, actually, then I'm going to move it to right over here. So I moved it over so that the connection could be directly beneath it. Now we could route it directly in between these 2 M.2s. Again, one is going to go this way and one is going to go that way. But if we did, we'd be perfectly fine. So again, now we'll go ahead and put this back in its spot. Now there are pins right over here where we can connect another fan. So I'm lifting it a little tiny bit so that it's not touching that cable. Either way, that cable will never go pushed into that, because after this, we're not going to touch that anymore. Now, since most systems are cabled differently, of course, this is going to be a little bit different. Been bringing that SATA power connection from the CLX 360. We can see that little L right over here. We're going to match that L to the L on the power supplies connection right over here, and then just connect them right over here. and we're good to go there. Now that we have the CLX 360 in the machine, we need to turn it on, then we need to go into the BIOS real quick. There's a few things we need to set. So in the BIOS, mind you, every BIOS is going to look different, but on this particular BIOS, we'll go to advanced mode, and then over here we'll come into monitor. Then we'll go into fan speed monitor. Now on this particular board, ASUS boards, whenever there's a liquid cooling unit, usually either you don't plug it into the CPU PWM connection, or if you do, you might get an error because the fans are running too low. So it's best to click here and then select ignore so that the fan will continue working. It just won't be monitored, at least the speed. The speed will be monitored within the software. Okay, then coming out of here, then we'll go into QFan configuration. And then CPU QFan, since we have the cable connected to the CPU fan section, we'll click auto detect and we'll switch it to PWM. That's how it operates. And then after that, we can just hit F10 to save and exit, and then click OK, and then we'll boot into Windows. Now that we're in Windows, we'll go to Edge or whichever browser we have installed. This is a brand new install, so I haven't downloaded anything else just yet. Then we'll come here to EVGA.com, click on Service, EVGA Software. Scroll down a little tiny bit and then click on CLX Software Download. And then driver download here. And then we can just open it from here. Now since there's only one file in this zip file, we can just open that from there. I agree. And we have the fans up here again and the LCD screen there. This is updating the firmware. So we'll start. Everything jumped to the max, these fans at least, and the pump. The screen turned off, as you can see. Firmware updated, and we'll click close here. And then it starts reinstalling the software. So you see how the image flipped. It was upside down, now it's turned 90 degrees to the left. And we'll click finish here. We'll close here and we'll open up EVGA CLX. I prefer to get it rotated to the right. Alright, now with EVGA CLX 360 software installed and running, this is how the software looks right at the very beginning. And we can see the little LCD screen is moved over to the left. That bugs me a lot. So in order to fix that, so on the screen here, we can see the tubes are on the left over here, but over here we can see the tubes are on the bottom. So to fix that, we'll click on the down arrow right here. Tubes are on the bottom, so now we click apply. We see LCD screen rotating, and then we see that right over here, it changes quick. So then on this screen, we can also change the fan speeds. Right now they're on standard, but we can manually move that over here. So they'll reach 2500 RPM. Kind of loud, so I'm just going to default it back over here, and then we're back on the same standard curve over here. This is controlled automatically. We can change that to performance. Notice the curve changed, silence, and then custom. We can play with the curve all we want, change it as extreme as we want. To cool as well as we want, and then of course we can just drop it back down to default over here. Then over here we can change the pump speed manually like we did before. It only gets a little tiny bit louder, not much louder with the pump, but then we can also set pre-faults to standard, performance, silence, And custom, again, we can change it completely like we want, as high or as low as we'd like. I can't move that one. Well, anyway, you can see how that works. So that's definitely nice over here. I really like this. Also, if we press the middle button and hit apply, it turns off the screen. Hit it again, apply, and it turns right back on. So coming over here to LCD, this is the default logo, the animation that we see here. And then over here, now it's going to be cycling through a bunch of stuff. If we click over here under animation, these are all the animations that we're going to see on the screen, starting with the EVGA animation, animation 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can see there the sequence right over here. And I'll go ahead and apply that so that you'll see slowly but surely it'll go from here to here to here, 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 and it goes through all of them. Okay, so then we can come over here to monitor, and then we can monitor temperature, usage, clock, power usage, temperature again over here for the GPU, clock, memory, utilization, cooler, pump speed, temperature, and it will get added all on that screen. So that's definitely nice. Coming back over here to picture. Now, if we don't like these, we want to add our own, we click customize here, and then let's go to over here where I have one, and let's keep that. So it's going to take a second. This is pulling an image from my thumb drive over to the screen over here, and I'll put the resolution of the screen on the screen so you can see what kind of pictures you can put on here. It only takes a few seconds. So now we have my logo there. So now, in order to get that to be either the only logo or move it around, we can add it over here. So now eventually it'll get to this, or we can just come over here, click on the X for all of these and click apply. And now my logo is the only logo on there. That's pretty awesome. You can put whatever you want on there. That's beautiful. Then coming over here, we have these animations. So if I had an animation, I can add it here and display it on that screen. And then messages. So right now it would only say EVGA, and even though it was a message already there, I'm keeping it, so I'm applying it. So it takes a few seconds to load that. Okay, and you see EVGA right there. And then if you wanted to, now you may have to change the pixel size depending on how big that image is, or that text is. We're getting there. There we go. And we can just apply that. All right. Now, that's only like that because I wanted it to be one line. You can have multiple lines on there. And then, so that's all on the LCD side. And I say all, even though that's a lot. So now coming over here to LED. Now here we can change the fan speeds and the colors. So flipping the camera around, now we're looking at the fans on the top. So we could shut it off right over here, apply it, and then we turned off all the fans. And then we can come to a static color. I have red, but you can come over here and select whatever color you'd like and apply that there. And then we can come over to breathing. We can change from red to green or whatever color in between we'd like. And with everything, we can change the speed of the transition to really fast or really slow. And the brightness as well. I'm gonna go ahead and put that up here. Then we also have rainbow. And like with the others, we can change all the colors that it'll change into, the speed and the brightness. Then we have pulse, same thing with the colors, speed and brightness. And finally we have rainbow wave, and we have all the same features and everything right over here. Now coming over here to hardware monitor, here we can see our CPU temp, CPU power usage, CPU clock, CPU usage, water cooler and everything. All these that we see right down here, and that is also going to come into play with the monitor over here. And then aside from all of this, we have the setup. The setup here, we can change the scale of the temperature from Celsius to Fahrenheit or vice versa. Change our language. Seems that there's only 2, maybe 3. Then check for updates daily, never on startup, weekly, monthly. Check now. That's all good. And then factory reset, we can reset everything here. Now the nice thing about this software is you can shut it off and everything is programmed right here. I don't think the software is running right now. Let's see. The software is not running, and let me check over here. Precision service is running. So I have that all removed. Now I wouldn't remove those because that could actually control all the temperatures and everything. But as it is, that's awesome that you don't need the software running in the foreground and you don't actually need it here. You might need some services, but like most things, there might be services that you need. So in this video, we've gone over unboxing the CLX 360. Then we've gone over installing it into our systems and then installing the software. After that, we've gone into how to utilize the software and do a lot of the configuration. Of course, we are going to go into overclocking soon, but I wanted to show you how everything was set up. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. Now, of course, I am going to have a lot more on this overclocking and all that good stuff, and of course, featured in more builds. But in the meantime, you can check out this video on how I installed the Gigabyte GeForce RTX 4090 Gaming OC graphics card. This is Iggy with ThisBytesForYou out. See you guys.